Welcome to A Canadian Investing in the U.S., a podcast and YouTube channel focused on Canadians buying real estate with host Glenn Sutherland.
Welcome to a new episode of A Canadian Investing in the U.S. This week, my guest is Steve Leslie. Steve, you want to give us a little bit of a background to yourself, and we'll jump into this.
Sure. So my name's Steve. I've owned real estate for the last 6 years. I've only bought just a few properties, and much like most of the audience here, I've had my fair share of stories and headaches and all the lessons from the School of Hard Knocks along the way. And I guess I invest both in Ontario, Canada, and in the US, strictly Michigan right now. And I'm looking to invest more in the US. I've since sold the two properties that I had in Canada. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
So cool. We got so much to talk about. So you sold the two properties in Canada. Just curious, what's the rationale behind that? Is it like an ROE play, just a lot of equity? I don't know. I'm kind of guessing at this, but
yeah. So interesting stories for both.
Okay.
The first one I sold, I actually bought in 2021 when it was the wild west of just throw money at it and see if you get it.
Yeah.
And this one was down in Rodney, which is like between London and Chatham.
Okay.
And beautiful property. I basically bought it because of the property. Like, it was 3/4 of an acre right beside a community center. The other two sides, you're surrounded by farmers field. All the neighbors, like, it was technically in town, but you felt like you were in the country, and all the neighbors were at the road. You were 300 feet back, so it was nice and private. But the building itself was like yeah, the building itself was like, I don't know about this. And I made the mistake of not going through it. I was supposed to go through it, but I was at another appointment, and we ended up being like a half hour late because we were coming from Kitchener. And anyways, I had the real estate agent walk through it, send me a video, and I was like, yeah, it looks good. Well, the kitchen in it was basically held up by Jesus, because honestly, it should have been condemned. And so I just basically put blocks. It had a half cement wall.
Yeah.
So I just made sure that it was not going to fall.
Yeah.
And I was in way over my head. At the same time, I worked in the swimming pool industry, and it was exploding for like 2 years, just nonstop. And so between the extra hour drive to work and back, plus the renos that I would have to do myself, and then on top of just the stress from the pool industry, like, it burnt me out. And I was happy to sell it about 8 months after the fact, because the financial stress that came with it, basically from when my offer got accepted, all the financials fell apart on me, and it was just an absolute disaster. So definitely one for reflecting on and saying I'll never do that again. But
so did you lose some money on it, or did you at least break even?
I didn't lose my shirt.
Okay.
I lost money on it, but it wasn't like, at the end of the day, it wasn't too bad. So
okay,
that was good. The second property I sold just a couple months ago, and that was the first property that I ever owned.
Yep.
It's a townhouse in London, a couple blocks from Fanshawe. And honestly, I'm sick of the risks involved in specifically Ontario. But you have a high value asset. You're basically, as a landlord, you're hated upon, and also you don't have the law in your favor. And especially with COVID, people not paying their rents and whatnot, like, to me, there's a lot of risk there, when I could just sell that off, go into the States, and have a lot better, a lot less risk, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's where that came from.
Okay. All right. So you, I'm guessing you completed those sales and then you started working on the US stuff.
Yeah. So I actually sold the townhouse just a couple months ago. I started finally the US one is interesting. I've had this for like 3 years.
The US one?
Yeah.
Okay.
We bought this one a month before the world shut down. And first time going into the States, and I hadn't taken your course yet. I had basically done all my research on your podcast, which, don't get me wrong, that first episode with Ali, there was so much to take away with that. Yeah. And just ended up going into the States, and then the world shut down, and we bought it for dirt cheap, and it just sat there because trying to get a contractor
during COVID.
Yeah. So finally now it's pretty much renovated. I had just waiting on a plumber to do like a day's work. Been waiting for like almost 2 months now. And yeah, but I had at the end of 2020, start of 2021, I got an $800 water bill, which the water where I bought is billed quarterly.
Yeah.
And so I messaged my property manager, and he was like, that doesn't, because I thought someone was living in it.
Yeah.
And he's like, that sounds a little high for that.
Yeah.
And so he sent one of his guys over to investigate. Well, what happened was there's galvanized pipe going from the basement to the upstairs in an outside wall cavity in a building that was built in like early 1900s. So like no insulation. I thought the water to the upstairs was all shut off, but it was just the hot water line that was shut off. So the cold water line cracked and leaked. And I thought, because at the time I'm going, okay, well, it must have just been in the basement, which was it would have been right by the sump pump. The basement is unfinished. So, maybe it should be okay, right? And then I didn't realize until I went there last fall, when my neighbor said, no, I saw the water leaking out of the main floor window. And I called the city because she knew that we were from Canada. I called the city to have them shut off the water. So by the time I got there, because I would have the property manager check on it, periodically, and but I didn't really think much of it. I was like, it's locked, it's in a safe part of town. It's kind of on the edge of town.
Yeah.
And they've never had any reason to say someone's in there, right?
Yeah.
Well, year and a half later, all the flooding had caused significant damage. Actually, it wasn't that bad in the scheme of things, but we did have to like redo the floors and
so it just dumped all over the main floor. So the pipe broke on the main floor then?
It broke in the cavity between the main floor and the second story. And then so right now I have a drywall guy waiting, and he's like, yeah, there's some mold on some of the walls, like it's not bad, it's just like a little bit. So he's gonna get rid of everything and redo it. It's just a matter of finally getting a plumber, which has been like my arch nemesis this whole time.
That's horrible. So this property, I'm guessing it's a duplex. Hello, everybody. Thanks for listening to the podcast. I just wanted to let you know that I've created a new coaching program. I believe the new coaching program has way more value than any of the programs that have even existed in the past. What we've done is pre-recorded all the lessons so that you can work through it at your own pace, which is pretty cool. And then we're going to meet up on a regular basis to answer the questions, do deal analysis, and actually spend our time together working on things instead of spending our time learning things. I think this will make a seamless transition to buying in the United States and will help you solve a lot of your problems. If this is of interest to you, go to glensutherland.com/coaching. I hope to help you guys invest in the United States, and I hope we provide as much value as possible. Back to the podcast.
It's a single family, but it had a second floor kitchen. Like it had two kitchens in it. So it was, and a back entrance, just needed like a walkway to come up. So it was all set up for a duplex. Like it even had like a gas stove up there and everything. And the way that the front foyer was, like you could easily section it off. And yeah, it was just interesting timing. But the good thing on that is talking with my real estate agent. She's been really good throughout this whole thing. And she was telling me when I saw her, back in the fall, she reminded me that in the States, it doesn't really matter that the interest rates are going up unless you're like buying now expecting lending, because anyone with a property refied at low rates, locked in for 30 years. So there was still a lot of money going around. And just like a month or so ago, maybe 2 months now, she had texted me and said, yeah, we're probably going to get like, it was about triple what we bought it for. So at the end of the day, we're going to make some money on it. It's just plumber.
So that was my next question. So the plan is it a flip then? You're planning to, you just do buying it, renovating it, and then back on the market?
Yeah, flip it and then look for other investments, I guess.
Awesome. No, that sounds good. Do you, I don't know, you don't have to answer this, but what kind of numbers are you expecting to get on it? And how does the damage play into that?
Yeah. So I'll have to calculate what the final tallies are, because it's basically been just this year that all these renovations took place. Like there was a few things that we were able to get done just like cosmetically before the world shut down, but so I'll have to tally that up, but it's still,
you're gonna be ahead.
Oh yeah, like we're expecting, she had said to expect like between 180 to 200.
Okay.
And even if it went for like 150, we're still ahead. So
that's good, and that's nice to have that kind of you need some gap in there, right, just in case. So what's the plan going forward? So you got this, you had some properties, you've had a lot of fun. If that's the right term. Had a lot of fun with your real estate. What's the plan going forward?
Going forward, I'm actually looking at starting my own marketing business and actually starting my own podcast.
Okay.
And more along like marketing, helping people out with, there's a lot of people that get into business that are really good at what they do, but they don't really know that they have to wear the sales hat. So that sort of aspect. And so I really want to kind of step away and be more of like a silent partner, just take equity and hand it off and let someone else worry about the headaches. And so I need a timeout right now.
Cool. Yeah. So you're still talking real estate though, right? Like when you say that, or do you?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So you basically take on another partner to do the deal with the fun. They're talking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I guess the overarching lessons that I've learned, even though I have 3 properties and it's done so much for me. And I would say the story that how I got into real estate was actually like most people kind of set goals and work towards it and actively save up and work towards it. And mine was just kind of like started with a conversation. And so like asking questions, especially like remaining a student and asking questions and seeking out mentors, that's been where the biggest returns have been for me. Like not just in real estate, but also just in life. And the story behind my townhouse really started off a conversation, but I had set a goal back in 2014 and it didn't come to fruition until 2017. And you know, the importance of setting goals. There is 2014, I've set the biggest goals and had the biggest rewards because of it. And it all started after hitting, you know, a really low point and really getting into personal development, setting goals and being focused on that. And one of the goals, I actually found it in one of my journals a couple of years ago, to own a live-in / rental property, like house hacking, in London, like by Fanshawe. And I could have sworn, I haven't found the evidence yet, but I could have sworn I said by the time I was 28, and 18 days before I turned 28 was when I got the keys to my townhouse. And that really started because one of my bosses at my job, he was like a self-made millionaire. Like he started from nothing. His parents, you know, came from the Deutschland, and so he started from nothing. And I was very drawn to that. Like, what did you do, sort of thing. Like, what would you recommend a guy like me do? And he's like, honestly, I would get into real estate. And he ended up coming with me to check out, you know, different places. And he's like, this is what you want to look for, not just at the house, but also like in the neighborhood, where you want to be. Like, and this guy, he had properties. I think at one time he had like 5 duplexes and triplexes, maybe even a quadplex in there, downtown London, when they were like
cheap,
less than 100 grand. Which wasn't like too long ago. But he would buy the ones that he's like, they should have been bulldozed, and I'd buy them, fix them up and rent them out, and they were cash cows. So that's how that came about. And then the whole investing in the US came about. It was kind of like a lead up of talking with a buddy of mine that was saying, you know, you should look at real estate in the States. Like, it's so much cheaper, even with the conversion. And then on Father's Day weekend, my dad and I went to Bay City in Michigan, and I saw all these big estates, and I'm like, I'm curious, how much are these things? Like less than 100 grand for, like, you know, a 2,000 square foot you know, house, and, you know, beautiful properties, and you're almost on the lake. And so there's a lot going for it, like all the little boxes you want to check. The transit system, are they investing in infrastructure, any schools, universities, like all that stuff, and population and whatnot. And so it was checking every box except the population had been in decline since the 60s, but it had started to plateau and even like start growing a little bit. So anyways, that's what caught my interest. And fast forward a couple months, I was in Utah for a week. And that's when this stranger on Facebook reached out and said, hey, my name's Glenn Sutherland. I have a podcast, and, you know, we're connected with some of the same people. I thought you might want to check it out. It's about, you know, investing in the States. And so I don't, I got a full.
That's awesome.
No, 2019, October 2019, and I had like a 4-hour drive later that week. So that's what I did, was I listened to, I don't know how many of your podcasts. And so that's really what kind of interested me in getting down to the States. And then coupled with that, earlier in 2019, I went to Grant Cardone's 10X Con in Miami. And so I had like really wanted to learn as much as I could about real estate. And he used to have a show he would do on YouTube like every Monday that was about real estate. So I learned a lot of terminology from him. And then one of the things he said was like, you know, put the pressure on. If you want to if you want to advance, like put the pressure on yourself, and you're forced to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so that's what I did. I went down, checked out some properties, went and found a business partner like a few days later.
Yeah.
And then the following week we were both there and we put an offer on the place.
That's cool. So maybe let's go into that a little bit. I had a couple questions for you, but you just mentioned the business partner. So I'm guessing you found an American for this business partner down in Miami? No? Okay.
No. I just took the lesson way of like, put the pressure on yourself.
Put the pressure on. Yeah. Okay. And that's I love that idea, because like you just make it so you can't go backwards. Put yourself in a vulnerable spot. Go put yourself so there's no turning back. You gotta keep going.
Burn the bridges.
Yeah, that's it.
And I mean, at the time I was also like at that conference, there was also Jesse Itzler, and that's where I discovered David Goggins and got into like training to do ultra marathons. So the whole notion of what if, right? Like that little phrase of what if I could do this?
Yeah.
It was really drilled in my head. And so I went for it. And I should also add, I didn't think that we had all the funds we needed. And I was, at the same time, after I did the offer, that's when I started doing a refi on my townhouse. And I think it finally closed like a week after we were set to close in the States.
Oh,
but luckily we had enough funds to close it, because we bought it like straight up cash.
Yeah.
And so
so if you were going to do this all again, the Canadian real estate, the American real estate, if you're going to do it all again, would you do it the same way? What would you change, if anything?
I have no regrets.
Yeah.
But I guess the best thing to keep in mind, the biggest takeaway that I would say is to find a mentor, because as it relates to buying that first property in London, I would have had no idea how to do anything, and I luckily had a really good mentor to help show me the way there. And then I recently took your course, Glenn, going into the start of this past year, because I was like, I really want to figure this out and get more familiar on how you actually do these things. And so becoming more familiar on how the process works, maybe just seeing if you can invest with a mentor, or even try to take them out for lunch or go to conferences and whatnot. Like, I don't know if you remember this or not.
I do.
But
I know where you're going with this.
I think it was January 2020.
Yeah.
There was we had put in the offer, and I was like, I got to learn a lot more really, really quickly. And so I reached out to you, and you said, well, I'm going to a meetup in Toronto or Ajax. Yeah. And if you want, like, we can meet up at the 401 and I'll drive and you can ask me questions. And it was like, I can't thank you enough, Glenn, for the amount of value that you have been like. And this was the only value that I had given back was I downloaded a few podcasts. That was it. So the fact that you're
looking for, right? I wasn't looking.
Yeah. Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, if you're looking for someone who's, just got a serve mentality, like, you're the guy for sure.
Thank you. Yeah. That was a little deep, but I'm going to drill you again. So I know you said that you had no regrets, but if you're going to buy in the US or buy in Canada, you do the exact same thing? Or I'm just guessing, because there was some problems with with the water breaking. Would you have you implemented any systems or plan to implement any systems on the next property to to prevent that, to try and help you, like some of the stuff you've learned from your Canadian properties? Is there things that you would have done to, mitigate some of those issues?
Well, moving forward, what I would do is, like, unbeknownst to us, we found a property manager. We actually met with 2 property managers, and
Yep.
the first one that was going to look after us, like, abandoned us. Never heard from him after the world shut down. So luckily we had a second contact that we had met, and he's like, yeah, I'll take you on, no problem. And like, thank God, because this guy has been a blessing in disguise. He takes care of things immediately, and yeah, like, he's been really good.
So the takeaway would be to like get someone else to like micromanage basically the thing, right? To get
definitely develop that relationship with the property manager first, and also find out like who their contacts are, because they're looking after a lot of different properties, so they're going to have contacts for all different contractors and all that stuff. So that would be probably the best thing to do.
People forget about that. Like they downplay how much knowledge some of these property managers have. They have the ability to, like, they know, they do tenant turnovers. So they got like flooring guys, they got stuff, plumbing breaks, they got plumbers, HVAC breaks, they got HVAC companies. They have the contacts. So, sometimes that's working with the team you already have could be a great way to leverage and grow your business.
Absolutely. And then too, like, because they know each other, you have someone that can, make sure that the work's getting done, and they have a good communication line.
Yeah. I like it.
I would also recommend, I guess one thing that I would change would be definitely to take your course and get a little more familiar with everything, because that was incredible. The amount of knowledge and expertise and even contacts from that, like, always seek out a mentor.
Even like just being around some other people, like I've had some of it depends on the course too, right? Or like the class, but I've had some of the students start working together. Like they both have the same goal, or 2 or 3 of them have the exact same goal. I know for sure of these 2 guys that were in the course, and now they're flipping properties in Toledo, right? It's just they met all in the course, and then they realized that they had a yin and a yang opposites, and one had money, one had time, one wanted to do this, one didn't want to do this part, and they just worked together, right? So you never know who you're gonna be around, right? But
something that I learned early on was that anything can happen in a conversation. And I think you can attest to this. Like, how many times have you gone to your kids' hockey games, and all of a sudden you got some new partners in the works? Like, and it's not like you went with a agenda. You just sat down with a hat on and had a conversation.
I know exactly the story you're talking about. Like, everyone sees me with these hats, right? And I have a white one, I got a blue one, I got a black one, I got a gray one. I have a whole bunch of different colors, and I just always showed up in these hats, and it just turned into a conversation, just talking with hockey moms just around the hockey arena. And they're just like, hey, Glenn, what's with the hat? What is that? You have you had a different one last week, but it's the same. What is that brand? I've never heard of it. And then you just starts a conversation. You do your little elevator pitch, right? Like, we buy houses in the US. You work with Canadian investors. We give them an amazing return. And I'm like, what do you do? And then, let them come back to you. Let them come back and ask you about it, or they won't. If they're not interested, no shame, right? You just keep moving on. But more times than not, they'll be interested to wait. What is a good return? Like, what are you talking about? What are you interested in? And just branding yourself. You're talking about doing marketing, branding yourself, just wearing your stuff everywhere. Like, honestly, we went to do this podcast, and I put the hat on to sit down to do the podcast so that it's branded. But I wasn't wearing my hat before this. I was walking around the house with no hat. I actually went to speak at a meetup in Guelph, and I didn't wear my hat, and people were like, is that you, Glenn?
Yeah, you have a certain look.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Awesome. Anyway, Steve, you're looking, you plan to do some more stuff. If people are looking to like reach out to you, they want to get in contact with you, see what you're up to, even learn, maybe pick your brain for some lessons or some tips for setting all this stuff up because you've done it before. How do they get a hold of you to do that?
Best way is probably on Instagram. I'm steve.leslie.91. And I also have a YouTube page for my hiking videos where I do a lot of intense stuff there, but Instagram's probably the best way.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. I'm guessing your 91 birthday, either that or you're a big Fedorov fan.
Actually, Sakic.
Oh, Sakic
from the 02 gold medal.
Still hockey. Anyway, Steve, thanks so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Glenn.
That was a nice video. Bye.